Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 123. Hi, thanks for joining us. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jill. Many women over 50 know that they want to stay healthy, be fit, and have an active lifestyle, but sometimes feel like they are alone in their journey. So we wanted to create a community to help encourage us. We named it Becoming Ellie because Chris and I are still becoming fit and strong.
And if you're wondering about Ellie, well, there's a story behind that as well. As the legend goes, Ellie is the Norse goddess of aging who was challenged to wrestle none other than Thor in a match. And to everyone's surprise, she won.
I still like that story.
Me too.
Obviously, Ellie must have been eating right, working out, and probably even training. We decided to name our community after her because we all want to be fit and strong as we age.
We have an online community. So if you're looking for support in your efforts, consider joining our Becoming Ellie Facebook private group.
And if you're looking for information, check out our website. You can find links at our website, becomingellie.com. And Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I.
Yes. I'm looking forward to today's interview with Robin Allen because she has a lot of great information for us.
Yes. Let's go to the podcast.
Robin Allen is a nutritionist passionate about helping women over 40 understand the best practices for longevity. She's the founder of Necessary Nutrition Incorporated and the creator of Necessary Nutrition brand of vitamin D3.
Robin received her bachelor's degree from the University of Las Vegas, Nevada, and her master's from the University of Redlands, and an additional nutrition certification from the Global College of Natural Medicine.
Robin encourages people to see food and nutrition as a way to fight obesity, illness, and disease. She's been featured on CNN, Headline News, and countless other media outlets, sharing her insight on food, nutrition, and life.
Welcome, Robin. We're so happy to get to talk to you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're really glad that you've joined us today, and I'll jump right in by saying, what are some easy steps to address health and wellness, and where do you start?
You really start with your mindset and looking at your environment. So let's talk about the environment, because oftentimes people talk about what to put on your plate, what not to put on your plate. But I really want to start with the life you live and who's in your life, because when we're eating and being, so much of that has to do with who we are around, the 5 people that are in our lives, and the way we wake up in the morning, the thoughts that we think. And usually that's not the answer that people are looking for, but any endeavor that we are embarking on has to do with how we feed our brain mentally and then the environment we live in. So that's what we have to look at. And I say this because how many times are people wanting to change and their environment doesn't support the change? It'll only last for so long. So that's where we start.
So you start with your environment and the people in your environment.
Just think about
who you hang out with really matters, doesn't it?
Think about it. Think about it. If you go out to dinner, let's say you're wanting to eat healthy, and we'll discuss what that actually means, because that means different for everybody. But if you're going out to eat, and let's say I'm eating salmon or tofu and broccoli and brown rice, and you have a plate of French fries and fried zucchini and chicken wings, or things that are not
blue cheeseburger.
Yes,
spaghetti and meatballs with lots of cheese.
Yeah, and you don't ask me, well, Robin, can I have a little bit of that tofu or your salmon? But I'm eyeballing your plate, asking you, please let me have a French fry and dip it in the ranch or the blue cheese, right? And it pulls me in. I don't pull you into my lifestyle. You pull me into yours. And oftentimes that's what happens, because the pull of, I say, our environmental pull, it brings us not into the healthy space, but more times into the unhealthy space. So I, as a practice, truly, and this, I mean this, I only go out to eat with others that really mirror who I want to be.
Oh,
yeah. Before I was me or who I am now, I was hanging around with people who I aspired to emulate in terms of what was on their plate. And that matters. It really does. I'm telling you, think about it the other way.
Yeah.
If you are in a room full of, let's say, folks eating healthy, whatever that means, and we can define that, and everyone's eating healthy, they're eating lots of vegetables and whole foods. And then I'm eating, fried chicken with hot sauce and waffles with a lot of syrup, right? That's what I'm eating. And then I feel like, oh my gosh, I feel like an anomaly, right? I feel like, oh my gosh, they're eating all this healthy food and I'm over here eating something else. I would then feel out of place. It's that environment. Does that make sense though? Putting yourself in an environment. Yeah.
It's kind of like unconscious peer pressure.
Exactly.
I'm pondering though, how you eliminate going out to eat with certain people that because they don't eat that same way.
Like your family, for example, right?
Yes, exactly. Like, yeah, your family.
In my case, with my family, I have a discussion with them and share and ask them, are they on board? Or say, okay, if we're going to go out to eat, let's have some ground rules this time. Let's choose, this dinner or this lunch to be a healthier space. If that's what my desire is, I'll ask them to support me on my journey, right? And then they hopefully will agree. But that's not always the case. If you're going to holiday parties or if you're out in the world, how do you make that work for you? And when I tell you, I really do not eat amongst folk that don't mirror what I eat. I'm used to it now. So I can go in an environment where folks are eating all kinds of yummy yummies and I'm able to resist because I'm used to it. Oh, let me give you a sidebar. I'm going to digress for a little bit because I heard this yesterday. It was something I'd never heard before about forming a habit. We usually hear that it takes 21 days to develop a new habit. I mean, y'all have heard that?
Sure.
And so what I heard recently was it takes 21 days to get used to the habit or to embark on the habit, but you need almost 3 times as much to actually make that habit stick. But that it takes 3 times as long. So you take that 21 days to know that that's the habit you're trying to achieve. And then you need to keep running through that cycle of 21 days 3 times in order for it to stick. So when I say that now at this point, because I've been eating mindfully more so for this long, I can go into an environment and I'm okay. But for those who are starting out, I would ask, there's 2 things. I would ask the folk in my life to support me. Do me a favor. When we go out, let's eat some more fruits and vegetables. So that's one of the things that I will ask is for my family to support me. And they might not want to, but if we express our goals and our desires and then our desire for them to be vibrant as well, right? It's not just because eating healthy is not, it's not terrible. So we're asking them to do something beneficial, but it does take work. Let's say folks that go to work, right? And your coworkers, there's lots of parties and potlucks and all kinds of things that can't.
Those Friday morning donuts that people bring in.
Yes. And so you can't ask your coworkers to not bring donuts because you want to be healthy, right? So then what do you do, right? When you have no control.
Avoid the break room.
Avoid the break room.
At all costs.
Here's what I say to myself or to say to others. Go ahead and drink a bottle of water first. Say to yourself, I'm going to drink a bottle of water as I'm in this staff meeting. And that's my focus. And then after I drink this bottle of water, if then afterwards I still am inclined to pick up the jelly donut, then okay, I will give myself that grace, but I will drink this water first. Oftentimes when we give ourselves, make an agreement with ourselves, because we can make that agreement with other people, right? In your office, but you can make an agreement with yourself and say, self, drink a bottle of water first, go into the staff meeting. And afterwards, if you are so inclined to continue and eat the donut or the whatever it is, then do it, self.
Cool.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I also like the idea that if you're going to ask someone to change how they eat when you go out to eat, that you're talking about a period of time.
Yes.
You're not saying to them, from now on, I will never go out to dinner with you unless you are going to order lean protein and vegetables.
Correct.
If you eat a potato in front of me, so no.
Right. You know what happens though? And tell me if you feel this, that when you find your tribe or your community, right? If in fact you are going on this healthy journey and your household is not on board, then you look for a tribe of folks that really are going in that direction, and you stay close to them.
Yes.
And they keep you in community in that way. And that truly, no matter where your environment is, you need to be aware of your environment. So if your home environment and your office environment is contrary to your desire, then get into community with those who are going where you want to go. And your podcast is a wonderful community. And I believe you all have a community.
Yes.
So the goal is, to align yourselves. And with the internet age, there's so many, it's easier to find your tribe.
Absolutely.
So find your tribe.
Yeah.
Yes. And stay close to your tribe.
I know that plenty of times I have thought I'm going to order what I would say is a healthier meal. And then my friend will order her hamburger and French fries. And I'll think, oh, okay.
Yes.
And there
exactly.
I go.
And that's real. That's the reality. It's like, well, how do you do that? You know, what I find, because I am a nutritionist, when I go out to eat with someone, I really don't make rules for them, because who am I to make rules for them? Because I've been doing this so long, it doesn't matter really in reality what someone else is eating at this point. But just for the fact that I'm a nutritionist, they order differently. And I don't ask them to order differently. I don't say anything to them. I'm making no judgments, but they will order differently.
Because they know you're a nutritionist, right?
Yes. But I'm minding my own business when I'm there. I'm not there to pick apart what they're eating. I'm really not. Like if I'm going out with a friend that I haven't seen in so long, catching up, I really, I say, do you, friend?
You don't look at their meal and say, you're really going to eat that?
No, I don't, because how horrible would that be? Right.
Yes.
Right. So I think everybody, I try to my best ability. I'm human. So I'm not always perfect at this, but to just leave judgment away. Right. So in everything, because life is, it's interesting. Life is a little challenging at times.
It changes. Yes.
And we all have a place and a space that we come from mentally and physically. And so I just leave judgment out, but folk are thinking that I may be judging them, and I am not. But when I'm eating with them, they will shift. Which again that's an environmental pull, right? I'm the environment, and I've said nothing, but they will shift how they eat in my presence. And that I see that happening over and over again, no matter anyone that's in my environment over and over again. Again, I say nothing. I make no comments. I give no tips. They watch what I eat and they will start making adjustments.
So what are some of the biggest nutrition mistakes that people tend to make?
In no particular order, but one of them is actually not understanding what nutrition really is. We think that when we put something in our mouth that we've eaten, well, we have generally, that we've gotten nutrition, or it's yummy to our tummy, therefore we have been fed. And though it may have been yummy to our tummy and maybe we were fed, it doesn't mean we were given nutrients. And when our body is having food that is food, it's able to take out if there are nutrients in that food for the purpose of building and repairing our bodies. So if you eat, and I use these examples because these are the things that I would eat if I could endlessly. Like I like hot Cheetos or Cheetos, right? So I like Cheetos, but Cheetos have there's no nutrition in Cheetos. So be clear, when you're eating Cheetos, that's for fun, right? That's not for nutrition.
Right.
Though I may have been satisfied, I may even be full, may not want anything else. I didn't get any nutrition. I didn't get anything from that particular item that was designed to build and repair my body and my muscles and my cells. And that's one of the mistakes we make, is not eating enough nutrients throughout our day, being conscious of if our body can take out vitamins and minerals. The biggest foods then that give us the highest amount of nutrients are fruits and vegetables. And I always tell people, I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, but I do understand that throughout the day, I must flood my body with nutrients so that I'm asking a lot of my body as I'm getting older, as we're aging. We want our bodies to work. And since I'm asking my body to do a certain thing, I have to do my part. Understanding nutrition, understanding that I got to give my body nutrients is something important. So one of the mistakes that folks make is not really being tuned into the fact that you need nutrients in your body daily.
I was going to ask, instead of focusing on the mistakes, what do you think the best things we could do nutritionally to get the nutrition that support longevity and fight disease? Like, are there certain things we could do?
Yes, absolutely. So let me say this. This is a tip. Before I eat, let's say I'm having lunch, I recommend this, eat a huge colorful salad before your cooked meal. A colorful salad with purples, so the cabbage, just make sure that your plate looks very rainbow-esque, right? Before you eat. So that's one of the tips, is every time you eat, in fact, put vegetables on your plate. And people will ask, in the morning even? And I say, yes. I'm a fan of, I have a smoothie every day. So you can add spinach or cucumbers or what have you to a smoothie. So being able to get that produce, and I actually grow my produce, and that's another story in itself. But getting the thing to do is, you're right, instead of saying the mistakes, but getting nutrients in your body, produce consciously with every meal that you have. That's my recommendation, is to do that. Then second would be a protein source. As we say women of a certain age, our bodies need the protein for our muscles and also for our blood sugar. So when you're eating, an example of protein. So if you're not a vegetarian or vegan, then the chicken, fish, turkey, in some cases, red meat would be your protein. If you are vegetarian or vegan, you can do tofu or tempeh or quinoa and beans. Those have a high protein content, quinoa being a complete protein. So you want to have a protein source with every meal. In fact, having every meal that has the balance of a healthy carb, and we can define that if necessary, a protein source, a good fat, and your produce every time you eat. And there is room always for fun foods. I never want anybody to feel or think that I would ever tell them not to eat some of the things that give them complete joy. If it's a bowl of ice cream or a piece of pie or whatever it is that brings you joy, there's absolutely room. I encourage it. Yeah. Actually. Right. Because who wants to live a life of, not the pleasures that are created for us. So the protein with every meal. We spoke about the environment and the people that we hang around, and that's a part of it. I always tell folks, you just really want to pay attention to who's in your circle and in your community, and lock arms with a community that will support you. And then the last one, so I'll repeat, we're saying understanding nutrition, be it from those tips to have the big salad before you eat, and or having a vegetable with every meal. I said vegetable opposed to saying fruit because it's easy for us to eat a fruit. Fruits are tastier and it's easier. I say, and also include fruit, yes, but we want to get the vegetables. If I say fruits and vegetables, then people will eat more fruit. So we want to get the vegetables. And then lastly, I want everyone to know where their vitamin D levels lie, where your levels are, because vitamin D is very critical to human health. We think of it in our age range more for bone health, but it's more than bone health. It helps to support our cell growth, our mood and mental health, our insulin resistance, inflammatory responses throughout our body, and even helps with our gut microbiome. I want everybody to know where they stand with their vitamin D in, so that if they are low, they are supplementing. We take so many supplements in our world, and not everything is necessary. Vitamin D is one of those that perhaps if your levels are adequate, there may be other things that you really don't need. So going back to the word, we'll say mistakes, is just not knowing where your vitamin D levels are so that you can shift if necessary. I absolutely recommend going out into the sun, because that's where you get your vitamin D, 15 minutes a day. But oftentimes we're inside, and depending on where you are in the country, maybe there's no sun. Like where I am right now, there is no sun.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know where you are, but there's no sun where we are either.
Right. I think it's raining today for sure.
Where are you all?
We're in Ohio.
Okay. And I'm in Maryland. So we're gloomy skies today. I mean, there's sun somewhere behind the clouds,
right.
but
yes,
it's
right.
not visible. Correct. Right. So those are my recommendations.
Okay. So that maybe leads into my next question, which is, how do the chemicals in food change the biochemistry in our bodies?
Think about before, yesteryear, when we were younger. Our food was different. It was grown, it was fresh, and we did not see the level of illnesses and diseases that we see now. Do you all agree that even when I started as a nutritionist 15 years ago, I did not see the autoimmunes and the cancer. I didn't see that at this level. In a short 15 years, somehow things have gone haywire.
A lot of allergies, it seems like.
A lot of allergies. It's interesting. I'll use that word. And whatever we take in our bodies use it and put it into our cells and our bloodstream, good or bad, right? Good or bad. Whatever you put in your body, it's going to be there. And it changes your DNA. Food can change your DNA for the positive. Food can change your DNA in the opposite way. And those chemicals can change your cell makeup and how they behave. And those chemicals in our food and the environment is what is plaguing us. And I'll go back to what can we do about it, because you have to eat, you have to breathe. And when you do those things, you're going to digest chemicals. And not to just keep talking about fruits and vegetables over and over again, but honestly, those are the fruits and vegetables really are the buffer for your cells as things are in your body trying to fight against what you would want. The fruits and vegetables, the nutrients and the phytochemicals are there as your army, as your buffer. All the time in your body, there is a fight going on between good and bad, the good bacteria, the bad bacteria. And you always want to give yourself you want to feed the good army so that it can take over the bad army. And that truly does come from fruits and vegetables.
You recommend your clients eat a certain way in getting more vegetables, but do you encourage them to reduce carbs or increase protein or avoid fat?
Depending on what they're wanting to do. So if you're let's talk about reducing weight. We're talking about weight and blood sugar. So if they're wanting to reduce their pounds, then we're looking at reducing our carbohydrates. The more active you are, the more carbohydrates you can use. Carbohydrates that are not utilized not utilized as energy will turn into sugar and store as fat. So if we're trying to reduce pounds, then we will, in some cases, reduce our carbohydrates. If we are wanting our blood sugar balance, which I believe all of us are, then we're looking at that balance between our carbohydrates and our protein. Yes, I am a fan of fruits and vegetables, but we need protein, we need carbohydrates, and we need fats, because those are the macronutrients. The vitamins, the fruits and vegetables are the micronutrients. And good fat. So people say, well, what's good fat? So we're talking about our avocado, our walnuts, your olive oil, your fatty fish such as salmon. All of that plays a role. If I could simplify this, because it does get confusing about what to eat and what not to eat, right? Things that have been created, meaning man created something and then put it in a box.
You mean like Cheetos?
Correct. Yes, exactly. So those are the things that are treats. Those are the eat sparingly, but the food that grows and that is of human nature, those are the things that we would want to enjoy more. I also get a question about meat. You didn't ask me this, but I do get a question. Is meat bad? Is meat good? Should I not? And so some of it is a personal value and a preference. Our bodies need protein. We do. We need protein.
Sure.
When you're eating, we'll say beef, it does matter how the beef, the cow, the animal was treated, what it ate, right? If it had hormones in it. So if you're eating beef, then you're looking for grass fed. You're looking for the livestock that was fed the highest nutrients and treated in the best way. Then you're getting the highest quality protein in that way. But that's not what we're getting oftentimes in the store. And it's expensive for some. So is meat good or bad? For some, some people have challenges digesting it. But I always challenge to say, if you're eating the highest quality chicken or eggs or beef, how does your body respond? That's the way to know. Your body is so intelligent. It will tell you what it likes and what it does not like. It will tell you whenever you eat something and you are bloated, gassy, your body's telling you, I didn't like that. Even if it were a healthy food for someone else. Sometimes a person will eat cabbage, kale, and that gives them gas that it doesn't give someone else. Your body is telling you, okay, that I didn't like that. Didn't work for me. So it depends. But going back to what I tell everyone if I'm connecting with them is we have the baseline of what we should eat and then let our bodies tell us what it really likes. Your bowels should move frequently. And I go into this because that's a part of if you know that your food is being digested and the waste is coming out that was not, when you eat, your body is taking the nutrition and the rest is waste. When you're having full regular bowel movements, I say this, and when I do say this, people, they don't like this when I say it, but you want to have as many bowel movements as you eat. So if you eat 3 times a day, you would want to have 3 bowel movements, which sounds interesting to some people because that they don't like the way that sounds. But I would say this, that those that are listening, when you eat, if you don't have a bowel movement, what did your body do with the waste? You ate, your body took the nutrition, and then the rest was waste. Where did it go? If you didn't have a bowel movement, where did it go? That's always my question. Like, where did it go?
Okay. All right. So for eating vegetables, and I assume some fruit is okay.
Yeah, no. And so fruit is okay.
It has a lot of fiber, right?
It has a lot of fiber. And this is also another question that's asked about juicing. And when you juice, you take the fiber out of it. Fruit has a great amount of fiber. Fruit is amazing and wonderful. If a person is diabetic or pre-diabetic, you just want to pay attention to it. We're having such a general conversation and we're bio individuals. So we all have, right. So to make a blanket statement, fruit is wonderful and it's awesome. Some fruits an apple might raise one person's blood sugar and not someone else's blood sugar.
Got it.
So it just really depends.
Help us then to understand nutritional supplements. How do we decide which supplements we should be taking?
I know it's a lot out there, right?
Yeah, there is. There are tons of supplements and
supplements
and lots of different advice on what everyone should be taking.
I know. So let's start here. And I love evidence. I love as much absolutes. I love if I take this supplement, is my blood going to change? Or is my physical, if I take this supplement, is something that I can notice happening, be it physically or again, through my blood work. So the first thing I always tell everyone to do is get your blood work drawn, get your physical know if you're deficient of anything. First of all, are you deficient of anything? We often are taking just because we've been conditioned to take them. So if you are deficient somewhere, then that's where you start. So if you're deficient in vitamin D, you take vitamin D. If you're deficient in iron, let's see if we can get you okay to a substantial level with your food. So first, we're going to get to supplements as to what to look for, but look at your blood work and see what you're missing.
Okay.
Then when you're looking at supplements aren't regulated. So any and everybody can sell anything and put it in a bottle and throw it online, and you would never know what's there. You just wouldn't.
What should we look for and what should we avoid with supplements?
So you want to look for certification. So there's a certification, GMP, that's the good manufacturing practice. You want to look for a certification called NSF. And sometimes NSF, mm-hmm, and that tests the purity in the products. There are regulatory agencies that, let me back up. So supplements are not regulated. They're not regulated, okay, but there are regulatory agencies that supplement makers can bring these agencies in to certify their product, because you want to look for a product that doesn't have heavy metals,
right,
or things that you don't want in your body. And if the supplement you're taking doesn't have any of those third-party certifiers, and you don't know what you're taking, you just don't know. So look for the products that are certified. That's really, really huge. I mean, honestly, you would never know if someone were bottling a product in their home next to their cat with cat hair. Like you would just never ever know what is going on unless a third party came in and toured your facility and confirmed that what you're doing is high quality standard. So that's one thing, to look for certified products. And then actually, what should we take? So we're women at a certain age, and I get asked, should we take magnesium? Should we take extra vitamin B? And I would say this to everyone. We know that I'm a proponent of vitamin D, and then also omegas are huge. So we think of it as fish oil. There's also vegan sources. It's the fish get it from the algae. And I say this because there are people that are listening that are vegetarian or vegan. So I always want to be wide, just to cover all that would listen. And I actually take a vegetarian omega, but an omega-3 or an omega blend is a good supplement. You take your vitamin D, you take your omegas, you look at your blood work and see where you are deficient. And where you are deficient, that's where you supplement. But first, we look at what can we do food-wise, because the vitamins and nutrients come from food. That's where it comes from. So we look at where can we plug in with the food, and then we see, we're changing our eating, and then we look at our blood work again. And if we're still deficient, then we'll plug in with supplements. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And we're told, well, we're older. Should we take calcium? Should we take, we're talking about our bone strength. And so doing weight bearing exercises is significant for our bone health. And vitamin D is important for our bone health. And if we're taking a supplement, specifically vitamin D3, you want to take it with K2, unless you're on a blood thinner, but you want to take K2 with your vitamin D3, because that K2 helps to transport the calcium into your bones instead of the calcium going in places that you don't want it, in your heart and other places. Take the K2 with the D3 so the calcium gets to your bones.
So I was going to ask you, what's the importance of vitamin D3? And I think you just told us that so
vitamin D3 has a lot of importance. But if we're talking about our bones, when you're taking vitamin D3, it helps support our bone health, but you also want to include the K2, especially for women in our age range. That K2 helps put the calcium. So that to strengthen our bones, we need the calcium, and we get calcium not from the calcium supplements per se, but we get it through our food. We need that calcium to go where it's supposed to go. And the K2 is a tour guide saying, here, go this way. Go go into our bones.
All right. And you had said earlier that vitamin D was good for also your mood and for helping with insulin resistance and improving your gut microbiome.
Yeah, it's critical to human health. And I feel like vitamin D is it's a best kept secret. It's an easy deficiency to have, but it's also an easy deficiency not to have. It's a very inexpensive it's in the sun. So I always want to be clear. I produce vitamin D supplements, but it's in the sun. And you can also get vitamin D from fatty fish, mushrooms, egg yolks. And we produce it in a supplement form, but we always say, here's where it exists in nature.
What is considered a normal vitamin D level?
If you're under 30 NGs, mLs, y'all don't care about NGs, mLs, but we'll just keep the numbers. If you're under 30, you are deficient. You are deficient. That's very low. 30 is considered minimum wage. And when I say minimum wage, you're not deficient at 30, but your body is not maximally supported at 30. But your doctor may see that. And I will say this, I'll put this disclaimer in there. Anytime you hear information, do your own research. I'm an expert in what I'm an expert in, but I always say that it is up to us to do our own research. Take what I say and then go do make sure that I'm telling the truth, right? So at 30, your doctor may say, hey, you're okay. You're at 30, you're good to go. And then you go and then you're like, okay, but that's minimum wage. They just want to make sure that, you're not deficient. You're at minimum wage. When your body is maximally supported with your blood level range between 60 and 70, maximally supported, meaning it's best for your healthy cell growth. And when when our cells are healthy, out of control cell growth is cancer. So, which is what we don't want. So your body is maximally supported when your levels are between 60 and 70. And like minimum wage, you can survive at minimum wage, but you can make more. So that's where we are. So your levels between 60 and 70 is where your gut is maximally supported. Your mental health and mood is maximally supported. I had a customer client, their vitamin D level was at 19. Ooh. I met another one at
That's pretty
14,
low.
Pretty low. And they had anxiety overload and just, they felt uncomfortable. I have another client, their muscles felt weak, and we've got their vitamin D levels up and they could see that change. And I didn't mention too, one of the muscle weakness, when you're deficient in vitamin D, you can have muscle weakness, getting sick often. Your hair can be thinning and falling out. And I said this before, it's an easy deficiency to have, and it's also an easy one not to have. And the darker your skin is, the harder it is for your body to produce vitamin D when the sun hits your skin.
I did not know that.
Is there a difference between D2 and D3?
Yes, ma'am, there is. So D2 is plant-based form, and D2, so let me just say this, D3 absorbs better and it sustains your levels better. So D3. D2 is found in what's mushrooms. So it's more of a plant-based source, but it doesn't hold your levels as well. So in other words, vitamin D stores in your body. So you take it and it doesn't stay that way. It'll deplete and you get more sun, you get more supplement, and it'll maintain. So vitamin D2 will come out faster. It won't stay.
Got it.
The levels won't stay as high. Also, though, when you go to the doctors, if they give you a prescription, it's going to be a D2 prescription. I believe they're not able to write a prescription for something that you can get naturally or from the sun or something you can get over the counter. And so the prescriptions you'll get from the doctor would be the D2 form, but D3 is better.
Got it.
Better absorbed. Yes.
Back to not having any light. So around here in Ohio, people will get those lights to simulate the sun. So I know people use them mainly for like seasonal depression and that kind of thing. Would those help with vitamin D or not?
No, you know what? The answer I would give is go see if your level's really raised, if that really helped. That's my best answer.
Okay.
Because that's not the form that we ever recommend getting it
Right.
in.
I just was curious.
Food's better then, right? Food's better.
Food is better. The sun is where it comes from. So the true place is when you go out into the sun, the rays from the sun, it hits your skin, and then our body is able to produce it naturally. So our bodies produce it. And then of course, if you're not in the sun, then that's not happening. And then if your skin is darker, it doesn't do it as efficiently. Then that's where supplementation comes in. So if you're not getting a lot of sun, and then think about when we were in this time where we were on a lockdown situation, or we were in the house, or the fact that a lot of people are inside working more and they're not outside. So the deficiency has grown, but you get it from the sun. And so those that are in the sun all the time, they may not have a deficiency at all. But if you're not, then you may have a deficiency. Or let's say a person doesn't have a deficiency. They're not below 30, but they're not maximally supported. So then they supplement to bring it up.
Got it. Now, you mentioned K2 as a supplement. You know, I keep hearing about it, and I'm wondering, is there certain foods that you could eat that would support K as well?
So your green leafy vegetables would support your K. And I want to caution. So the K can act. So if you're on a blood thinner, then Coumadin, warfarin, then you want to be cautious of taking K2 in a supplemented form, because it can interact or interfere with that. If you're supplementing your D3, especially if we're 50 plus, then I'm recommending the D3 K2 combo, because remember, you're taking the D, and then now you want to direct the thicker. There's calcium in your body. You want to make sure that D and that K2 are working together and putting the calcium and the nutrients where they belong. As we age, this becomes more important. So women we'll say over 40 in this space, but over 40, over 50, you do the D3K2. So yes, D3K2 belong together unless, I want to say this again, because I really want people to hear this, unless you're taking a blood thinner.
I just had an aha moment on that, because many years ago, I remember a doctor's telling us she did not prescribe calcium supplements anymore.
Correct.
Because it can cause heart problems.
Yes, ma'am.
So that's why when you go and they do these scans on calcium in the heart calcium, whatever scans, that's actually calcium. I mean,
yes.
If you're supplementing calcium, you could be actually affecting your heart and your arteries. And
yes. And so we talk about supplements. I do not recommend calcium. Somewhere along the way, we believed or thought that we needed to supplement with calcium.
Well, calcium is good for the bones, but you can take something and it might not go to the right place.
Right. And that's exactly right. It goes. And so we're taking all this calcium, but it doesn't go where it's going in the heart and causing calcification in the wrong place.
So if we have a big leafy salad, that is, if we're not on blood thinners, and we have a big leafy salad, vegetable kind of thing, kale with lots of greens, that would take care of that situation.
I tell you this is, I'll say this again, because I mean this. I mean this with all of my heart. Boost up your vegetable intake, take your blood work, and that will inform you of what you need where you need to bridge a gap or fill a gap.
That's great. Because
we do it opposite. We're like, oh, we should take calcium. We should take this. We should take that. And then we have this medicine cabinet full of stuff, and we're taking it, and we don't know why we're taking it. We don't know what it's really doing, if it's doing anything. I do not recommend a multivitamin. We probably don't have time to unpack that, but I like evidence-based, and I like to know, if I take this supplement, can I see something change in my blood work? Can I see that? Not arbitrary, not do I think, maybe. No. Even when you're taking omegas, there is an omega-3 index in your blood that can tell you if your omegas if what you're taking is effective. That's where I stand. And the more that I'm in this life, in this field, because it is a field of noise and confusion, I'm standing very firm on know where you're deficient and fix that, and fix it first with food. Because sometimes it's removing certain things out of your diet and allowing your body. So let me say this. Our bodies want to absorb the nutrients that we give it. If our gut environment is not healthy or favorable, we won't absorb the food that we're giving it. So if in fact let's say you are eating well, but I'll say this, if your gut is not absorbing the food, your food won't get to where it's supposed to go. And then that will have an effect. So if we're cleaning up our food and cleaning up our gut environment, so then the nutrients can absorb better into our bloodstream. There also, so for those that are listening about supplements, there are supplements that are called bioavailable. And that's important in this way. Bioavailable means that when you take it, it goes right to your bloodstream. It doesn't have to go through your digestive system. Because if you have a faulty digestive system, then the nutrients don't necessarily get to where you want it to go. So when it's bioavailable, it goes straight to your bloodstream and then your body can use it. And that I did miss saying that is when you're looking at a supplement, look for its bioavailability.
Okay.
And sometimes it may not be listed on the product. Because people ask me, why do I focus on vitamin D? Because we really do focus on that. Because I know if you take vitamin D, your vitamin D levels are going to go up, right?
Yep.
So it's like, there's just not a lot of confusion in there.
You mentioned about the difference between supplements that are vegetarian and animal-based. And if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, does that affect which supplement you take?
It does.
How do you figure out that?
So let's talk about this. The supplements are cased in capsule right? So some of the capsules are made by bovine, which is gelatin. So it's the gelatin casing. So gelatin is not vegetarian. It's either from cattle or from pig. I don't eat pork, right? So I want to know if this casing what is the casing made out of? So if you're a vegetarian, you want to be sure that, or vegan, you're not taking a casing that is a gelatin capsule made from something that you're not going to eat. And so if it's vegetarian capsule, then it'll say that. Right.
Okay.
And this goes into how the material is made for the product, because some of it, the casing, just a sidebar, it's cheaper in some cases to encapsulate the product in gelatin made from pork.
Right.
So it's just, sometimes it's less expensive to do things a certain way. And some people don't care about that at all.
Right.
And so if they don't, then it's not an issue. But if they do care, then you have the right to know that, be it ask the company if it's not available on their website or what have you, or if it's like for our product, our D3K2 is vegetarian and it says it, but our D3 without the K2 is not vegetarian. We want to know.
I want to go back to something that you said earlier about autoimmune diseases. What role does nutrition play in that? What do you think is causing the increase of the autoimmune diseases, allergies, and that?
The environment and the chemicals, hands down, the environment. So when it comes to nutrition, and I know this, there's certain foods that if you have an autoimmune condition, we recommend that you do not consume on a regular basis, be it dairy, gluten, and any inflammatory foods, because with the autoimmunes, it's a lot of inflammation going on in the body and creating an unfavorable environment. And we're taking out inflammatory foods out of the body. In taking out inflammatory foods, we're taking out even animal protein may not work if you have an autoimmune condition. I mean, there's so many autoimmune conditions, but from a nutrition standpoint, with an autoimmune,
it's a big subject. Yeah.
It's a big subject. I would say we'll use the word vegan, but go plant-based. If you have an autoimmune, go plant-based and see what happens. I've yet known anyone that shifted to a plant-based diet, whole food plant-based. And I guess instead of saying vegan, I'll say whole food plant-based, that they did not see an improvement in that condition. So taking out inflammatory foods and shifting to whole food plant-based, 9 times out of 10, there is a noticeable difference in their aches and their pains and their symptoms, for sure. And it's my favorite thing to do is to have someone share with me how they feel better or they're doing better, because they made that shift. So nutrition has everything to do because, again, it's the environment and the nutrition. I don't know this for a fact, but when we look at all these autoimmunes, because there's a lot going on, what has changed over the last many, many decades? What's changed is how our food is given to us, how it's mass produced. For example, a chicken is able to be given to us and ready to be on our plates at a much shorter time than by nature it would take for a chicken to be ready to be consumed. So the time is cut short by steroids and antibiotics. And so whatever the animal is eating, you are too eating, right? If there's chemicals in the chicken, there's chemicals in you. It just is. And I'm not, like I said, that you can eat chicken or not, but whatever's in the food you're eating is in you. Whatever is in the air that you're breathing is now in you. And our cells don't recognize those chemicals as they're like foreign invaders. And so they attack our cells, and then our bodies are trying to fight, but at times being overtaken because we have a chemical load that's greater than our nutrient load.
Wow.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm going to say that.
That's I'm sure, a big topic. But dairy and gluten are the primary inflammatory food for many people. Inflammatory foods. Yeah.
Yes, they are inflammatory foods. Not because, and I want to be clear, because I have this conversation with a lot of people and even my significant other about dairy. So the cow or how the cow is treated and inject with chemicals to make their milk production higher. And because they have people drink milk and there's a lot of milk that has to come to the masses. So you have to speed up the process. And in that's where you're getting the chemicals, right? So is milk bad in itself? Some people cannot digest it because of other reasons, but you're getting chemicals. So milk back when the milkman used to come and deliver it is not the same milk that we're getting. And then with the gluten, and gluten being the protein found in wheat, there's a chemical glyphosate that's sprayed on the crop. The chemical is sprayed, and that chemical, look it up, glyphosate, that chemical is disturbing our body, our digestive system. So if you're eating gluten or eating wheat or products made from it, and they've been sprayed with this chemical, that's where the problem comes in. Also, a lot of the crop is genetically modified, meaning that how it would exist has been tampered with and changed. Our bodies know nature, right? Your body knows what is from the earth and not tampered with. When you go and you tamper with things, your body says, what? What is this? I don't recognize this. And that's where the problems come in. So if wheat were untouched and unbothered, then if you're making your own bread and growing and, producing your own wheat, then it likely is not to have the same effect. So if you're going to other countries where they're not spraying their crop with glyphosate and chemicals, then you maybe wouldn't have to go gluten-free or take gluten out of your diet. It's not the same here where we are, where we live. Yeah. So it's, again, I have this, I would say not an argument, but a discussion. And some people say, well, I don't want to remove whole food groups from my diet. And I always say, if your body is working optimally, no aches, no pains, all is well, and what you're doing is working for you, stay with that. But if you have any inflammation, any problem that you want rectified, then I always recommend, let's take out gluten, let's take out dairy, let's take out the anti-inflammatory foods for a short amount of time, mind you, just so that the person can see what their body is doing. Your body is very intelligent, and it will tell you. Just the other day, I got a text back from one of my customers' clients, and they were telling me they no longer have heartburn and they don't have as much mucus in their body because we removed the inflammatory foods. And for them, it was profound, but for me, it was just easy. It was just take these items out for 10 days. 10 days, I say. 10 days and see what happens. And you can do anything for 10 days, right? 10 days.
Yeah. So you may just have led into my next question for you, which is that you run a 10-day shred.
I do.
Can you tell us what that is and what are the guidelines for the shred?
So the guidelines is we do a few simple things over 10 days. And because 10 days, we know that you will notice. And 10 days is not 10 weeks or 10 months. And when people hear 10 days, they say, I could do that for 10 days. So we're taking out dairy, wheat. We're taking out the gluten, the dairy, processed foods, sugars. We're sleeping 7 to 8 hours. We're exercising most days. We're drinking water so that your urine is nearly clear. And then we are adding in lots of fruits and vegetables. And I like to throw this in. This isn't one of the official guidelines, but this is one of my unofficial guidelines is you're thinking positive thoughts for those 10 days. You are telling yourself the most wonderful things and affirming yourself as a person for those 10 days. But we're doing those, a few simple things over 10 days. And that shred comes with a menu and guidance so that those that are shredding really have an idea of what to eat. And it gives you a list and it's very clear.
Okay. So if you wanted to do it, we could sign up somewhere. I mean,
yes.
You don't have, it's not a local thing. You could do it with anyone online.
You could do it anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a lot of shredders right now. It's really exciting because at this time of us recording, because I don't know when the world will hear this, but it's that start of the year where everyone is, because this happens every year. They want to get their lives together.
Yeah. It's like, it's busy at the gym right now too.
Yeah. And so a couple weeks later, they'll go back to their default position. But the shred, I love the shred because as I mentioned, it's 10 days. And what happens after the 10 days, this is where the magic happens. 3 things happen after the 10 days. The shredders say, wow, I feel so good. I'm going to keep going, right? The psychological locks are off. They're not within the 10 days. They're free to do what they want to do, but they feel good. And they say, we're going to keep doing this. Or they say, 10 days are over. I miss cheese. I'm going to go have a pizza. And then they eat the pizza and their stomach gets bloated and they're like, oh, wow. Okay. I now know that my body doesn't like this. And then they say, wow, okay. I knew I felt better when I was without dairy. Then they course correct. Or a third person says, yeah, I felt better, but who cares? I want to go back to the way that I was. So with our shred community, we shred every single month for 10 days because because you're right. You're free to live your life the way you want for the other 30, 31 days of the month. But we always bring it back to those 10 days. And what happens is that you become conditioned to do it. And it personally feel a sense of freedom and not guilt when I'm outside of my shred and I'm eating some yummy, peach cobbler or something. And then I'm like, okay, I know I'm going to go back to the shred, so I'll be fine. And it helps to keep my weight stable.
So from a nutritionist perspective, what do you recommend for women who are overcoming like a food addiction or emotional eating? Is there a difference between the two?
Between emotional eating and a food addiction?
Yeah.
In a sense, but I'm going to generalize them in this way. So we use food for comfort or, it's a mental challenge. With food, unlike anything else, if you have an addiction or let's say if you're an alcoholic, you don't need to go to the bar you don't have to go to the bar to live your life. But with food, you truly do have to have food daily to sustain yourself. So it becomes this, if you have an addictive relationship or an emotional relationship, you still have to deal with this very thing that you're trying to manage. And it becomes overwhelming. Oftentimes, those that have an addiction to food or an emotional eating relationship, they will come to a nutritionist. And that's actually only part of the equation and not even the main part of the equation. And I want people to understand this. It's actually a therapist that would best serve one that has, because often at the root of that addiction or emotional behavior, something occurred deep down in our childhood somewhere. And this is not my area of expertise because I'm not a therapist, but I've seen it enough to know that it was caused by some trauma or something going on. And we turn to food just like any other thing that when you want to escape your reality, be it drugs or alcohol or anything. There's a lot of things to be addicted to, and we're trying to temporarily take away those feelings that we don't want to face. The hardest thing to do is to face something you don't want to face, but the best thing to do is to face what you don't want to face so you can get a hold of the problem that you're having. And if you never face it, if you go to a nutritionist and I'm telling you to eat some broccoli and lean protein, who cares? Like okay, that's good for you, but that doesn't solve your challenge.
Right.
Your challenge is much greater than the balance of the food on your plate. You need that. The other thing I want to make clear is, so when you eat a chip, I'll use a chip for an example. The chip company doesn't want you to eat one chip and put it down. They're not in the lab seeing how you can have one bite. They're in the lab with the chemicals, and they're testing to see how you can eat more and more and more and more. And at what level of chemical lights up your brain in such a way that you can't stop. The commercials, you
can't eat just one.
Right.
You can. Yeah. And they mean that, and they make it so that you can't just eat one. Back in the day, cereal didn't have as much sugar, but we know that sugar it lights up our brain. It does something to us chemically. So the food manufacturers, they know that if they put more in it, you're going to eat more, you're going to buy more, they'll make more money. So then if that's the case, if you have an emotional relationship with food or any relationship with food, and you eat those foods, because people ask, why can't I stop? What's wrong with me? Why don't I have the discipline? What's wrong with my willpower? Because it's not your willpower. It's not really your discipline.
It's the brain chemistry.
It's the brain chemistry. Mm-hmm. And then how do you get away from that is actually not to put it in your mouth, because once you do, then you turned on the pleasure, and now you're fighting against it.
How does food preparation affect overeating?
It helps you to have a plan and a game plan. Because think about it, if you're not prepared and then you're hungry, and then you can easily go get something quick because it's there, or you will eat something that's less than favorable because you weren't prepared. So I'm a proponent of preparation, especially if you have the time. And I love to just keep salads in the refrigerator, and I tell this, I'm not vegetarian or vegan, so I'll have ground turkey in the fridge, or chicken, or whatever it is that I have, or tofu. And I'll have it there so that I can quickly bring it out and make a quick taco or something really quick. So the more that you're prepared, it all comes to mindfulness. It all comes to mindfulness and awareness. And I really, really believe in having a therapist in our lives to help us, even with, or mindfulness practice, if not a therapist, but practicing mindfulness in everything that we do in life, not just food, but just in everything. Be aware, because that helps guide everything else that goes on in our life. Food is so life. It's not isolated. It's everything that we are and everything that we do. To talk about food and nutrition, I can't not talk about life, right? Because people really only want to talk about the logistics of protein and carbohydrates, and that's great. But so much goes into the thoughts you think, as I mentioned earlier, the people in your life, the feelings you possess. All of that goes into what actually ends up on your plate.
So the food prep is sort of related to the environment that you're in.
And you mentioned that you do salads a lot. Can you tell us a little bit about your food prep, or your big colorful salad on your health strategy list for 2023?
Yes. So really having a big salad before you eat. I tell people this, and I say this because I say, eat whatever you want after this big, huge salad. So put all the cabbage and the carrots and the leeks and every vegetable that you can think of, and make a huge salad. And then after that, eat whatever you want. Whatever you have room for, you can eat that. But I'll cut up my vegetables and just go for it and have it always ready in the refrigerator. And I love the way it's just so colorful. If you put the peppers, if you have the orange peppers and the yellow peppers, just make it so pretty that you want to brag about it. Yes, right?
I love that.
That you want to post it and show everybody how beautiful your food is. So my meal prep, I eat really simple these days, my way of eating has evolved immensely over the decades. I wake up every morning. I have a smoothie packed with protein and vegetables. And then my lunch is where I usually have my carbohydrates because I'm more, in theory, active. And I still have my big salad. I'm always having my protein. I love tacos. Like if I could eat tacos every day of my life, I would. And I'll have my balanced meal. And then for dinner, I go with mostly at this day and age, I'll do a big plate of vegetables. That's not necessarily what I recommend to my clients, but if I weren't just doing a big plate of vegetables, and I would do a protein and a vegetable. But I love roasted. Oh gosh, what did I have the other day? I had a big, huge plate of roasted broccoli with olive oil and garlic. And that was my dinner.
Yeah, roasted vegetables taste so great.
They are. And so that's my simple meal. 1's my smoothie. 2 is my lunch with my balanced meal. And 3 is my big plate of vegetables. And that's what I eat on a daily. But that doesn't work for everyone.
Right.
Does not work for everyone. And I want people to know that it just really depends. Some people need certain things at the end of the night because of their blood sugar. Some people need certain things at the beginning of the day because of their blood sugar or their schedule. Some people can't have a smoothie in the morning because it's so lifestyle dependent.
On your website, you talk about creating a tower garden.
Yes.
Can you tell us a bit about it?
Yeah.
I have an arrow garden, which I suspect is a lot smaller than what you're talking about. And I right now have a bunch of lettuce growing in it, but
yeah,
trying to figure out if that's like a related thing or
it's related. So the tower garden that we have, it's aerobal hydroponics. So it grows without soil and it waters itself.
Oh, nice.
And it uses nutrients. So in our soil, our soil is depleted from a lot of the nutrients. So with the tower, we put in the nutrients as in their best form inside of the water, and it waters itself and it grows everything but a root vegetable being your bulb onions, your carrots, your beets. And then someone asked me, and it made me laugh, does it grow lemons? And I'm like, it doesn't grow what grows on a tree. It doesn't. But we can grow watermelon. We can grow cantaloupe.
Wow.
Oh, so vines too.
Yes. And so cucumbers, they vine and you need a trellis and they try to crawl all over your walls or up, So you can grow cucumbers, tomatoes. You can grow inside or outside. It's a wonderful.
I'm going to have to check that out.
How tall is that?
So the tower garden, it can be 3 feet or more because you can add to it. So I'm taller than my tower garden when I don't have extensions on it. So you can add, we call more ports so that you can grow. So as it comes, the one outside, you can grow 20 different plants or fruits and vegetables. And then the one inside has 32. So when you're growing inside, there's a smaller unit.
Okay.
Because it's in your house. So you don't have this big, large basin. And so you're growing a lot of microgreens in the tower. But so I grow squash, cucumbers, everything, peppers, bok choy. It's just,
wow.
No, it's like having a garden. I guess it's called a tower garden. It's like being able to have a garden if you don't have.
Yeah, 32 vegetables. That's more than I think I buy in a grocery trip. Yeah.
This is the thing is I don't have a green thumb. I don't want to be in the soil. I'm not a gardener, but when I was introduced to the concept of the hydroponics and then I was introduced to the tower garden, I thought, well, I could do this if I don't have to water it. And so I don't have to, because I'll leave it for 2 weeks and not put any water in it.
Yeah.
Easy care. So that's what made sense to me. And I got one. And then Necessary Nutrition, my company, we started being a partner with the Tower Garden because it made sense. And because I'm such a fan, as you would hear me throughout this conversation, of produce, and also that the produce that we get in the stores still has its challenges. And I'm so glad that you asked about the tower, really, because when you're growing your own produce, you know what is on it. When you're growing with the tower, you're using non-GMO seeds. You're not using pesticides. Any pests, you can control it with essential oils. and you know what you're getting is the highest quality nutrients. I love that. And the taste is undeniable. Undeniable. When you taste your cucumber or it's a thing. When you're growing your own produce, if you're doing an in-ground garden, you know that it tastes.
You know where it came from and
you
what's
know where
in
it came from. It's just with the tower, it yields more and it grows faster. So you can eat from the tower in a month or two, whereas an in-ground garden, it may take much longer to grow. It's just a better way. It's the future of urban gardening because you're growing upwards. And so we're, in a sense, running out of space in some cases. This way, you're not utilizing a lot of space or water for that matter, because you're recycling the water.
Ah, interesting.
That's great. So I have a question for you. When you're rushed in the evening and super busy, do you have a favorite go-to recipe that you like to make?
No, I'm laughing because I'm lazy. That's why I'm laughing. My go-to is anything I can put in that oven and click 400 degrees and so roast my timer, roasted vegetables. Right. And then I will also, and so from the protein side, I'll make a smoothie. If I'm being lazy, honestly, I will roast some vegetables. I will have a smoothie with a handful of nuts in it. And that's my lazy, but that's not appetizing to a lot of people. When people want like real food, they're like, I don't want that.
Well, I'm just asking you what you do because,
what I do. Yes,
because we're trying to emulate your environment. You know what I mean?
So in my complete laziness, I will roast vegetables. I love eggplant too. So I will roast eggplant and I'll actually bread it. So I'm telling you that I'll put some breading on it and put it in the oven, and maybe you can dip it in some marinara sauce. But that's that. And now that's not a lazy meal because you have to chop that and prepare it and everything. But my laziest is roasted vegetables or a quick salad.
If our listeners want to find you online, where should we send them?
Yeah. So the easiest place to find me is if you go to necessaryvitamind.com. That is our website. And there you can actually find I just created this for everybody, is a checklist for your health and wellness, making sure that you have all these items on your calendar. Some of the things we already know, your mammogram and things that are standard, but there's also things that you will see that you may not have thought about. So there's a checklist for you. And then there's also an anti-inflammatory meal guide. And that's really good if you have an autoimmune, if you don't want to have an autoimmune, or you're really just wanting to, focus on your nutritional wellness. And everyone can just go and get that. It's on the website.
That's awesome.
So necessaryvitamind.com. And then I'm found on Instagram I'm laughing because I was not a social media person. I wasn't. Sure. And then after this change in our society and our, the shift when we were not allowed to supposedly go outside for a while, I started to play around with it. But on Instagram, I am Nessie Nutri. N is in Nancy, E, S is in Sam, S is in Sam, Y, N is in Nancy, U, T is in Tom, R, I, at Nessie Nutri. I can be found on Instagram.
We'll make sure to put the links in the show notes so that our listeners can find you online. So that's great.
Thank you.
Could we repeat the website again?
Necessaryvitamind.com.
Robin, thank you so much for talking with us today. We just got tons of information from you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we really appreciate it so much. You've been a great guest.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I particularly liked Robin's ideas about the tower garden. I'm inspired to start something like that in my house. I really love that.
I'm going to encourage people to go and look at the pictures of that because it's big. It's tall.
Yeah.
She's right. It's vertical. I have a little arrow garden that it's just a little desktop garden, indoor garden thing. It's also a hydroponic thing, but you do have to add water and it's nice. I enjoy it. But that you could do like your whole produce shopping thing in one.
I have a few herbs and some sprouts. And the other thing I really liked about what Robin talked about was her 10-day shredding program where she did 10 days out of the 30 each month, where you focus on water and each of the things that we all know we should be doing, but she makes it a conscious effort. I love that.
You know what I liked about that was that usually when I hear a 10-day shred, it's usually like people who do bodybuilding and like heavy duty weightlifting. And that's where I was thinking it was going when I first saw that. Yeah,
that's what I thought it was going to be, right?
And because I thought that's a little unusual, and it wasn't a weight loss thing, because I've also seen that, where people do these weight loss. It was...
Yeah, it's not like a cleanse or something. It
was like a 10-day commitment to basically healthy living.
Yeah, healthy habits.
Yeah, I really liked that.
Yeah.
You know what else I really liked was just the talk about the vitamin D and the K2, and that gets really complicated sometimes in my mind. I don't know about you, but I found that really interesting. And the talk about the K2 and the dark greens if you're on blood thinner. I remember my father being told he wasn't allowed to eat spinach, and we were all rolling our eyes like, who tells you not to eat spinach? But he was on a blood thinner.
Yeah, kale and spinach, I guess even, spring mix, lettuce, kind of a no-no on blood thinner because it messes up your levels and then you have to adjust your medication. Everything's a balance, isn't it? Even healthy things.
Yes.
I'd be really interested to hear how other listeners are balancing eating with healthy nutrition and what types they might be willing to share.
Well, if you enjoyed today's podcast, please tell a friend or consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or leave a rating for the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook,
LinkedIn. We're missing one of those. It seems like we're everywhere. Well, of course, Facebook. But anyway, don't forget to sign up for our email list so you don't miss any of our articles or podcasts. And you can sign up again at becomingellie.com. That's ELLI. Well, thank you for listening, and be sure to check back with us for the next episode.
Yes. See you next time. Bye.
Bye-bye.